guys, welcome back to my YouTube channel. I hope you guys are doing well. It's so good to be back here. My very first video. Okay, this is not my first. I have the first video already, which is a summary, but this is going to be the video where I talk about, or where I review or summarize the chapter 1 of this text, the Lekki Headmaster. So my Jamb candidates, you're welcome back. Now sit back and relax while I take you through the chapter 1 of this novel, and make sure that you master it at the end of this video. If you're not here with your pens and your notebooks, you are so wrong. So make sure you go get your pens, your notebook, because you're going to be writing a lot of things. So make sure that you get that right now. And yeah, let's start the video. So I want to assume that we might all have read this chapter 1 that I'm about to talk about. It's important that you read it because there's a lot of detail in it that I might not be able to put into this because I'm grouping the details. So there's some really little details. So you need to just read it and then come back to watch this video. So if you have not read it, that's your sign to go and read it. So I'm going to be grouping these videos into the events in the order that they happened. So the first thing that happened in chapter 1 was the principal's odd behavior at the assembly. Now the principal, who we know as Mr. Gbekbo Adewale, walked ponderously, which means slowly and heavily, to the podium from the back of the assembly. He appeared less sharp than usual. His trademark morning smile was missing. Taking the microphone from Angel, the chapel prefect. So I've just mentioned one person, Angel. So I want you to do something for me, right? I want you to get a book, whether it's an exercise note or anything. And everything that I'm saying, you have to write it down. You have to jot it down. Okay? So we're going to do like this. We're going to write chapter 1. And the first, we have Gbekbo Adewale. So we're going to write it out. Gbekbo Adewale. And we're going to write his role. He is the school principal. The school principal. And the second person that we have that was mentioned was Angel, who is the chapel prefect. And she was the one that was conducting the assembly before Mr. Gbekbo took the mic. So we have seen that the chapel prefect, who is Angel, and then he stood silent, looking blankly above the student's head instead of into their eyes as usual. He dropped his head, staring at the colorful tiles on the floor. And then the second event, the principal's tears. He tried to speak again but ended up shedding tears. Dropping the microphone, its clatter echoed through the sound system. Students and staff watched in confusion as he sobbed openly. Now we have the reactions from staff and students. Mr. Gbekbo Adewale shielded his face with his hands as tears flowed. And the vice principal, Mrs. Grace Akpe, so we're going to write that out. The third person, Mrs. Grace Akpe, is the vice principal. She asked what was wrong, joining him at the podium. 4 staff members, including Mrs. Titi, the nurse. So now we know Mrs. Titi. The book calls her Mrs. Titi Israel, and she's fondly called Nurse Titi. So we're just going to write Nurse Titi Israel, and I'm going to put Mrs. into a bracket so we can identify her from a Miss and a Mrs. It's important to know whether the person is married or unmarried. So she's Nurse Titi Israel, Mrs. Or you can just write Mrs. Titi Israel and put her role there, which is a school nurse. The school nurse Titi, tried to console him, but to no avail. Now, the VP's decision to dismiss the assembly. Mrs. Akpe instructed Mr. Justus Anab, the chemistry teacher. So the fifth person is Mr. Justus Anab, who happens to be the chemistry teacher. The chemistry teacher. So he was the one who had to conclude the assembly after the incident that had happened. And now the VP, nurse, and CRK teacher, Mr. Oyelana, that's the sixth person. The sixth person is Mr. Oyelana, who is the CRK teacher. I actually wrote CRS because that's how it is in secondary school. But yeah, they escorted the principal to his office. So there were three people: the VP, the nurse, and the CRK teacher escorted the principal to his office while Mr. Justice concluded the assembly. Now, the timeline and other contextual facts. Assembly proceedings were delayed until 8:05 a.m. and Mrs. Akpe advised the guidance counselor to assist with the situation. So when the three of them went with the principal to his office, the guidance counselor also met them. The guidance counselor was also with them, and the guidance counselor's name is Mrs. Becker. I don't know if this is Becker or Becky, because it's just like one E. Egbin. So number 7 is the guidance counselor, which is Mrs. Becker Egbin. Yes. So the book tells us that they tried to talk to and pet Bekbo for over 30 minutes, and he did not respond at all. He just kept on looking and crying, looking up to the ceiling, looking at their faces and weeping, and he never uttered a word of what was his situation. And after that, it reached some parents, and it raised a lot of concerns, and they had to call the managing director of the school, who was currently not in the school, who wasn't present. She had gone for an outside function, but had to come back to guard the situation, or just to oversee the situation. And the managing director's name is Mrs. Ibidun Gloss. So we write that out. So now we also got an information from the book, and it was about the price or the fee for the boarding fee for that session, or the reduction in the boarding fee. It was from 250,000 naira to, it was reduced to 165,000 naira. And the reason is so that more children could be enrolled into the boarding house, and the punctuality will greatly increase, because a lot of them were day students from what we know, and they used to come late, and the assembly starts by 7:45 a.m. So reducing it from 250,000 naira to 165,000 naira allowed a lot of students to be able to afford the boarding fee and increase the punctuality altogether. So we're going to write that out. So this one is the character. The first page is going to be our character. You guys can see, but yes. And then we're going to move to the second page, which is going to be like some points and some things that we have to take note of. And that is the boarding fee. So number 1 is going to be our boarding fee, which is from 250,000 naira to 165,000 naira. The assembly time, that's going to be the second thing. It is by 7:45 a.m. So please, let's take note of that. Write that down. And also, the excursion fee was raised by 93,000 naira. So that's going to be the third thing. Increased by 93,000 naira. We also got an information about Mr. Odu, who is the fine arts teacher, and it is said that he had gossiped about the MD and called her a witch and a wizard rolled into one. So Mr. Odu, which is going to be in our character notes, is the fine arts teacher and also the gossiper of the school, Mr. Odo. I think it's just Odo. It's the fine arts teacher and gossiper. Let's use that to remember him now, since he has set a bad name for himself. So this is just the ritual of the assembly. The assembly usually starts with a short prayer and then the recitation of the second stanza of Nigeria's national anthem. And it takes place on it. They do this on Tuesday and Thursdays. So on Tuesday and Thursdays, we have short prayer and national anthem stanza 2. While on Monday, Wednesdays, and Friday, we have the Muslim and the Christian prayers alongside with the first stanza of the national anthem. And also there's something they also do during the assembly. They have pep talks by students. And it's said to have started by the principal 7 years earlier. So the pep talk started 7 years ago. On the assembly, it started 7 years ago by Principal Begbo, where a student for that day would come and present a speech. So it was Ikena Egbu who was an SS1 student. So we have someone now, Ikena Egbu. He was SS1 and he went for an excursion in Jos, Plateau State. Let's not forget that. And he complimented the weather, he complimented the landscape, he complimented the rocks, he complimented the University of Jos, the Share Hills, the Wase Rocks, the Solomon La amusement parks. So he complimented everything. And Ikena, though he was a science student, that's another information, we can't miss that. He was a science student, but he was also a respected poet, and it is said here that his mom is a broadcaster and award-winning poet, in case it comes up. So Mr. Gbekpo had been in Stardom schools for 24 years. So apparently he had been in the primary school for 4 years and then in the secondary school for 20 years. So we have a few information about Mr. Gbekpo Adewale, and he's said to be tall and light-skinned. He's said to be called the Lekki Headmaster because he used to imitate the characters in the old TV drama, which is the village headmaster. So they also nicknamed him the Lekki Headmaster because the roles and the duties were kind of similar. And also Mr. Gbekpo had good conflict resolution skills. And also some students called him Principal because he used to say it's not principal, it's principal. So they called him Principal. It's just like a nickname kind of thing. And then we have some information about the school. So the school achieved over 90% success in the previously concluded WAEC examination, and the school surprised all its employees with snacks, bottles of wine, and 20,000 naira for SS3 teachers. And those who handled subjects where candidates scored distinctions, however, took home 30,000 naira each. And now we were told that the only teachers that had questions to answer were Mr. Obong Ukaku and Miss Taye Karim, in whose subjects were chemistry and geography, respectively. So now we know Mr. Obong Ukaku was chemistry teacher, while Miss Taye Karim, so this is a Miss, not a Mrs. Miss Taye Karim is a geography teacher. And none of the students scored F9, not even one student. So that's also something we should know, that the school has a really good academic standard, or academic level. And now we were also told about the cousin of the MD, Mr. Funsho Daniels. We were told that he was not spared an abrupt exit. For time reference, the MD arrived at 9:30 a.m. to Mr. Beko's office. And of course, she was really frustrated, and she called the physics teacher, Mr. Okpe, one day, who was also a pastor. So we need to write that down. He was physics teacher and pastor. And we are told that the physics teacher, Mr. Okpe, one day spoke to the principal for close to 10 minutes, but he did not utter a word still. And he recommended that the MD calls the principal's wife, and he then told her that the principal's wife now lives in London. And then she goes on to call the principal's wife, but neither of the two lines goes through. So she tells the pastor to please accompany the principal to his office and that he has to go home. But the pastor is of course concerned that it might not be right to leave him alone at home in this condition because he could get worse. But the MD understood the sentiment of the teacher's fear, but she felt pressed to remove the drama away from the school because a lot of parents are already having misconceptions about the situation. And the MD also says that he should be taken home, and the guidance counselor, who is Mrs. Becky or Becker Edwin, should also accompany him home, and he might as well be taken to a clinic. So this is the end of chapter 1 summary of the Lekki Headmaster. We're going to move into some questions now. But before we move on to the questions, I want to just read out a few themes. There are 4 themes here. And we have number 1, emotional vulnerability. The principal's breakdown highlights mental health issues. And then leadership. The VP and MD's swift actions reflect leadership under pressure. And then we have education and achievement. Emphasis on Stardom's excellent academic performance in the WAEC and NECO exams. And then the last theme that we have for chapter 1 is community support. We saw how the staff and management rallied together to support the principal, and that is the themes we have in chapter 1. Now let's go to the questions. Let's see if you learned something today. Questions and answer. Who did Mr. Agbepo take the microphone from during the assembly? Angel, the chapel prefect. What was unusual about Mr. Agbepo's demeanor at the assembly? He appeared somber, avoided eye contact, and eventually broke down in tears. How many staff members moved to console Mr. Agbepo during his breakdown? 4 staff members, including Mrs. Grace Akpe. What was the name of the school nurse? Mrs. Titi Israel. And the 5th one is, what recent measure improved boarding enrollment at Stardom schools? So the reduction of the boarding fees from 250,000 naira to 165,000 naira. And then these are some objective questions. They have from options A to D. But sadly, I can't mention all the objectives because they will take too long. So let's just pick the right answers. What did Bekpo do during the assembly that shocked everyone? He cried in front of the staff and students. Number 2, what was the primary reason for Bekpo's emotional breakdown? The pressure of his responsibilities and the decision to migrate. Number 3, what reputation did Bekpo have among his colleagues and students? Kind and empathetic leader. What significant decision was Bekpo contemplating? He was contemplating migrating to the UK to join his family. I think this is number 5. What did students and staff feel about Bekpo's breakdown? They were sympathetic and concerned. And then what theme is introduced in chapter 1? I'm going to give you 2 questions now. So what theme is introduced in chapter 1? A, corruption in schools. B, leadership and the burden of responsibility. C, the joy of teaching. And D, political instability. And now the last question, which is the second question for you to answer in the comment section, is, how did Bekpo typically appear to others before his breakdown? A, overly emotional. B, confident and composed. C, distant and detached. D, rigid and unyielding. And now we have come to the end of the summary of chapter 1. I do hope that you've learned something really valuable. I promise you, I tried to pour out everything that I know or that I can teach. But one thing you should remember is to always write down points that you see, important things that you can note about the environment, the school, their structure, and also the characters. It would help you a great deal. I'll come to the end of this video. Make sure that you drop your answers in the comment section. I'll be telling you if it's correct or not. I hope you enjoyed the video, and tell me what kind of patterns you want to see in my next videos. This is just chapter 1. We're going to chapter 12, remember, and I'm going to be posting a new video every single week on a new chapter. So watch out for chapter 2, and to make sure that you do not miss it, because it's important that you study for your JAMB exam, make sure that you subscribe to my YouTube channel, and you also turn on the post notification bell so that you get updates on when I publish a new video. Thank you so much. Tell me if you enjoyed the video in the comment section. I cannot wait to chat with you guys. Thank you so much for watching my video. God bless you, and bye.